What's going on there?
We have some bad news. So this is the oil reservoir for the gear case and the bow thruster is what this is. And we have water in it.
That's not good.
No. It means that we either have a seal that's bad or a crack in the gear case, or this one has a, believe it or not, a screw below a water line for the where they put the lube in when you pull it out of the water, and that could be leaking too. So we got to pull the boat. They don't make this anymore. It's a QL bow thruster, and Volvo discontinued them just about right after the boat was made, about 10 years ago, so you can't get parts or anything for them. So fingers crossed we can just flush the gear casing and refill it and repair the seals.
Cross our fingers.
Yeah. Join us on the Elli-Yacht as we realize our 5-year plan with the kids. Grown up, moved out, graduated from college. We take the dog, sold everything, and kitted out the boat so we can cruise the Pacific Northwest, all while living and working in the heart of Seattle. Because QL bow thrusters were discontinued by Volvo somewhere around 2010-ish, right in that area, there's a ton of these bow thrusters out on the market that have no support, no parts. Really, all of us that have these bow thrusters, we're kind of on our own. By the way, to replace a bow thruster is not cheap. You're talking about at least $10,000, sometimes $15,000. So it really, it's probably the best option to go through and try to fix those things. Now, generally speaking, because they're discontinued, the way you fix them is an R&R, remove and replace. Well, I don't want to do that. I'd rather try to find the parts and be able to put the bow thruster back together. So the cool part is we found 2 different places that are going to be able to help us out. One is Yacht Performance Center. They really specialize not only in navigators, but they also really specialize in bow thrusters. So we're going to go over there, have them tear apart the QL thruster and see what's wrong with it. Now, generally speaking, what goes wrong with QL bow thrusters, especially in the gear case, is the gears either go bad or the seals go bad. And there's a place online called thrusterparts.com. So if you go there, they actually have parts. They have the seals, they have the bearings, as well as the gears that they're recreating with actually much better grade material, so they'll last longer. You don't have to worry about being back in this position again. So fingers crossed, when Yacht Performance Center pulls out the bow thruster, hopefully it's just the gears and or it's just the seals and the bearings, and we can be able to order those up from thrusterparts.com and be able to get back on the road. Now, the one thing from talking to David Kraft at thrusterparts.com is he wants to help everybody out. So tell him you heard about thrusterparts.com on the Elli-Yacht. Just tell him that, you'll get 10% off, he'll take good care of you. So next step is off to Yacht Performance Center. This is our first time using Yacht Performance Center, and we're excited. Not only do they have a covered lift, but they also have this lift that raises right out of the water, and it leverages the keel for all of the support as it raises the boat up, which is outstanding because most travel-all lifts use straps, which puts a ton of pressure in very small areas on the side of the boat, which is really hard on the rub rail and the freeboard of a boat. So as it raises up, you can see there's also braces on the side, those red components that keep the boat balanced and secure as it raises up. Now, a fiberglass boat, this is obviously the best way to go, but on a wood boat, it's almost the only way to go because they are so delicate, and raising them from the keel is the safest way to go. So now we're going to take a walk around and look at the bottom paint, look for any damage or issues with any of our mechanicals. Everything's looking good. However, after 36 months, we're seeing some patches where the bottom paint is starting to fall away. That's the barrier coat that is between the fiberglass and the bottom paint. But first, we're here for the bow thruster.
I feel so little. It's a big boat. Looks good though.
First things first, Jim from Yacht Performance Center needed to
disconnect the motor and the belt that drives the bow thruster inside the boat, so that they could then disconnect the bow thruster that is inside that tube, which runs across the bow of the boat and provides thrust to be able to move the bow side to side. There's the belt and the gears and all the other pieces. So now Jim is doing the hard part, and that is taking off the props of the gear case of the bow thruster and then gently working to pry it loose from the hull. Generally speaking, they use the devil's glue, which is 5200, to be able to mount this up. It almost becomes a part of the hull when they do that. So this is a tricky part because that casing is made of brass, so it's soft. You can't hammer on it, you can't pry it too hard, or it will either bend or it'll break, and then, well, you're getting a brand new bow thruster, which is obviously not the goal. Well, after a bit of work, he was able to break that free and drop the gear case housing into the bow thruster tube. You'll notice that's a pretty good sized tube. It's actually an oversized bow thruster for this boat. QL had this thing spec'd for a 70-foot boat, so it does its job when it's working. So Jim is putting a zip tie on this to indicate which side of the thruster, because it looks identical, you could switch it, that is on the port side. So when they put it back in, it'll pull to the port or it'll drive to the starboard. Now, this is the moment of truth. We need to pull the thruster apart, and you can see there's a lot of corrosion there. Did the seals go bad? Are the gears bad? The moment of truth is pulling it apart. Now there's that screw I was talking about that he just threw to the side of where they fill the gear oil. Now look, things aren't too bad. The gears actually look like they're going to be able to be reused. And that's great news, because again, they don't make these gears any longer for this bow thruster. Now, we have a problem. We have a hole in our boat, and we need to be dropped back in the water at the end of the day. So the team gets creative, and they take a piece of bow thruster tunnel, they cut it off, and they position it in our current tunnel so that they can put sealant on it, bolt it back in, and splash us down by the end of the day. No bow thruster, but no big hole for the boat to sink while we're finding seals and rebuilding the lower unit.
What you doing, baby?
Well, since we got the boot stripe, we're out of the water. Just gonna take care of some of this that, no matter how much you wash it, just the lake, the alkalinity of the lake turns this goldenrod, and so it's just a chance to clean it off. We'll probably get some on-off, which is a good cleaner that'll actually brighten this up as well while we get out of the water.
Looks good. Looks brand new again. All the yellow's gone. How do you think the bottom paint looks?
I think we can touch it up this year, and then we can get one more year out of it. A little silica refresh for the ceramic, so that it should stay nicer for the next year, like getting done today. This is good.
With the encouraging news that we might be able to save the bow thruster, it's time to get back in the water and head back home while they source the seals and determine whether or not it can actually be rebuilt. We're also going to start planning a couple other projects to have them do once we get back on the lift in a month or so. As we said earlier, they don't make these bow thrusters anymore, so the team at Yacht Performance Center was able to source seals and bearings, which is outstanding to be able to rebuild this bow thruster lower unit. But look at the lack of material for the end case. You can't source these anymore. They called everywhere. They just don't exist. There's enough meat to keep that seal in, but this will definitely be the last rebuild ever on this bow thruster.